Hello. Thank you for having me. I am a local Nashvilleian, and I am beyond honored to be here tonight. 10 years ago, I was living in my car. This year, I get to speak to you. And I'm working in living my dream in developing nations and living my God call. And I recognize the gift of your time. And I recognize that time is the only thing, no matter how wealthy you are, you can never buy more of. So I gotta make this good. I got 20 minutes to share something that I think would give you a little bit more confidence to recognize the gift inside yourself and to freaking go for it. Because we do have one life. I wanted to be a missionary from the time I was 12 years old. I had a huge heart and I wanted to help people, and that became my identity. At 18, I bought my first house so that I could have enough cash flow to actually be able to live in Africa and not have to ask people for money. In the process of buying it, I heard you can do this thing called flipping houses. Anybody heard of that? I heard that you could fix up a house and you could make like $10,000, which was $1 billion to an 18-year-old who wants to be a missionary. I had been going on mission trips from the time I was 13. I'd been working 5 jobs at a time, working super hard so that I could go on these trips. And the issue was, when I got on these trips, on a mission trip, I was angry the whole time. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm on a mission trip. I shouldn't be angry like this. But I was really upset that I was feeding kids and building stuff, but I knew that they'd be hungry tomorrow. And my frustration was I wasn't really solving the issue. Anybody else ever have frustration lead them to an invention, idea, or business? Please raise your hand. Frustration's a good thing. It means you have the vision of a higher standard. You can become an angry hater, or you can find a way to take that vision and build something out of it. So I bought my first house in 2007 at 18 years old as a waitress. They were giving anybody loans back then, guys. And in that process, I learned about flipping houses. And so I said, well, what colleges teach you how to flip houses? No colleges did. So very practical. I guess I'm not going to college. My family is not a huge fan of that idea. One of 6 kids, very close family, and they did not speak to me for 2 years, except for to tell me that I was going to be a loser that would never make it. I don't know if they have ever had anybody close to you tell you that your idea is crazy. Well, I'm doing this for the orphans, right? So this is going to work. Did I tell you that I bought the first house in 2007? Not really the best time to get into real estate. So I found out later. But I bought this house, and I was going to learn how to flip houses so that I could buy an apartment complex with that money I made, and I could build my own orphanages off of what I made on that apartment complex. That's literally as big as I could possibly dream, and I wanted to move there before I turned 26. So I bought that house, and the market crashed and burned, and everything that I touched seemed to be a complete failure. Very, very long story short, I found, as a waitress, went back to waitressing, I was studying 12 hours a day, everything I could get my hands on. As a waitress, I ended up meeting a group that allowed me to work for them. But the problem was I had to move to Nashville in 2 weeks. I was in North Carolina at the time. I'd never heard of this. I've of course heard of Nashville, but I'd never been to Nashville. So I pack up my car, I rent my house out to these guys on Craigslist, and I moved to this beautiful city where dreams come true. I get fired within 60 days. The guys who rented my house, their first month's rent check bounced. And I had already taken a job $600 less than the minimums on my credit card. And so I did the only logical thing. I moved into my car. I didn't tell my family. I couldn't let them be right. But when I moved into my car, I found some guys that were flipping houses. And I said, can I work for you for free? So even though I was starving for 3 years, I still learned that you have to give first. And I'm so honored to be in a room of such service-minded people because I can't even begin to tell you the level of doors that are going to open for you with that attitude. After working for free and living in my car for about 9 months, I did my first house by myself. And then I became the biggest rehabber in Nashville over the next year and a half. And in the process of scaling that, I don't know if anybody's ever worked with a contractor. It always goes well, right? I had a contractor I had worked with for a while. I had 9 houses with him. And one day he just walked off the job site. Took $1 million with him, hadn't paid the subs in 3 months, everybody filed 1 million liens all over my houses. I had to re-pull the building permits because he had made fake ones, and everything that I had been working 18 to 21 hours a day. I don't even know how I had that much energy, honestly. I have no idea. But I did. 18 to 21 hours a day, everything seemed to go up in flames. And those are the moments where you have to really know why you're doing this. And those are also the moments that you get to figure out if you're a good person behind the scenes. The true tests of character are when everything goes wrong. But I put my boots on, I went out there, I managed the job sites, I paid everybody back, and I felt like a huge failure. I really resonated with Dr. Lynn. What an amazing woman. Give her another round of applause, please. Where are you? Oh, you're amazing. Thank you for sharing the imposter syndrome. I was definitely dealing with that around this time in my life. And I learned that no matter what is going on, you really are learning things that are setting you up for your future if you do not quit. So 5 months later, I had developed systems so that crap would never happen again. And we were 5 times bigger. But speaking of imposter syndrome, I had started this all for the orphans. So yay, I became a millionaire at 23. I'm successful. I'm the biggest. I'm winning awards. Everything seems to be great, but my heart and passion was always to serve and to solve these issues at their root. I go back to Africa in 2013, and I go with another group, and I felt like an imposter because I didn't really have a way to help. And I go over there, and I see this beautiful orphanage, and it was self-sustainable, and we go and visit another orphanage site, again, feeling like I have no skills. I helped them do the land deal. I helped them create the site plan. I helped them create the market study. And then I helped him reinvent a family model instead of warehousing children. And I didn't realize that the skills that God had me going for that I thought was just to make money to leave were really setting me up to help solve these issues. So don't ever curse the path. You have no idea how everything is going to come back as long as you never curse the path. God doesn't forget your heart. But what I saw when we came back a year later was that just because we had tied up an orphanage site to build on it, we hadn't even built anything on it. This was an area, we picked this area because the parents were actually selling their children into sex trafficking for $25. That was a level of desperation I pray no one in this room has ever had to face and never will have to face. But that's how bad the situation was. So I came back a year later, and this entire area had started thriving and booming, and all these businesses came in, and it was like the rich area now. And it hit me. I said, why in the world is this going on? And it was, well, because the Americans tied something up. There must be, it's almost like they thought there was gold in the land or something. And that's when it hit me that the concept of real estate development can bring hope to hopeless areas. And I knew that my prayer early on of and my frustration of actually wanting to come back and solve these issues was being answered. How can we take that understanding that people are getting excited about community investment, people believing in an area, and that can create jobs so they don't have to do that anymore. That was so amazing. And so I came back from that trip, and that was when the first time I had stopped just doing it. Because again, my long-term vision was holy. I wanted to make money to go be a missionary and serve overseas, but I hadn't understood that in the process of making money, I could be a force for good. If you haven't recognized that yet, I'm excited to see everybody in this room challenge their own life to do things just a little more intentionally and see the ripple effect that that creates. So I came back and I started tying up areas that really needed investment, very high crime, garbage all over the streets, places people said don't walk. And I said, how can we create hope in these hopeless places? How can we mindfully revitalize these areas around Nashville so that people want to be here and jobs can be created? And so I tied up all these different urban areas, having no idea that that would become a thing. I was gaining those skills. I got on my knees, though, because after 10 years of doing that and becoming one of the largest urban infill developers in Nashville and then starting to move throughout the rest of the Southeast, I still wanted to be able to do it locally and globally. We've been practicing, we've been learning. Our business is teaching us the skills to fulfill our purpose and passion. But I want to do this in really, really desperate places. And that's when God told me it's going to start on islands, because that's a micro place that you can get things really right, and then you can scale it to go back to Africa and really solve these things. So I started going to different islands in 2014, and in 2017 when the hurricanes hit. I don't know if everybody remembers Irma and Maria. When these hurricanes devastated over 11 different island nations, not islands, island nations, my company was a first responder. And I saw how Richard Branson used the Necker Bell, the largest, most awesome catamaran in the world, as a rescue boat. And I saw how the founder of Google, who owns an island over there, used his helicopter to go deliver goods to remote islands. And I saw how the founder of Otterbox, all these guys own islands, brought in Convoy of Hope, a whole ship, and fed the nation for 180 days. And I was really dealing with burnout at this time. I'm sure no one else has ever gone through this. But I was feeling down, I was feeling sorry for myself. The people around me were like, you work too much, you do too much. Why don't you just hang out? Why don't you just play? You missed your 20s, you spent all this time working, blah, 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 blah. And I was listening to them. And I was feeling really down, but when I got there and I saw people who had lost everything, they needed God to answer their prayers. They had no food. Regular people, not people who had nothing. People who had everything had no food, had no water, had no shelter. The prison got hit. The prisoners escaped and were running around. It wasn't a safe situation. And I recognized then that God always uses a vessel. Always. And if we can raise our hand and say, how can you use me in whatever I have, Lord, to be your hands and feet in this moment? That requires resources. If you want to, I always grew up thinking it was holy to just be able to provide for just myself and my family. I don't know if anybody's heard that. Maybe it's just me. I thought money was evil for the longest time. And of course I'm like working through that as I grow through this. But when I saw that these billionaires, unbelievers, whatever, again, doesn't matter what you are, just happen to have enough to be able to sustain and uplift an entire nation, I was challenged inside. How can I start to scale even more so that I can help even more? And maybe nobody else deals with this, but I've always had to have a righteous reason to give myself permission. Dr. Lund doesn't deal with this anymore. But you figured out some amazing truths. But I found a righteous reason to tie my purpose to something so much bigger than myself. Because I do have enough. I have a car. I can live in whatever I want. A very cool car now, thank God. But I have enough. I'm not a stuffed person. And when you're not a stuffed person, you almost need that understanding. And it was amazing what I learned there. And so I have gone from having this original vision of helping people that didn't have anything to now working in developing nations. That's actually the premier of the British Virgin Islands, and creating sustainable economies through what I've learned in my business and from the amazing people here in Nashville. So I'm going to give you 3 keys today. 3 keys that are going to help you live the most impactful life as a force for good. If you're interested. These are the 3 things that I asked myself in 20 minutes, what can I give them that will help them live an even more impactful journey. You ready? Y'all waking up? All right, we haven't even eaten yet. Okay, so root yourself in your purpose. When I was 17, somebody forced me to write my eulogy. I was in this class, and it was really weird exercise. But I wrote my eulogy, and by starting at the end, it was so interesting. Everything just became clear. So if you've ever struggled with understanding what your purpose is, what's your why? First of all, you have multiple purposes. And as you keep going down the journey, it's going to get bigger and bigger because you keep raising your hand to be a vessel used for more and more and more and more and more. But if you write your eulogy, you will be clear on what matters most, and you can drop all the stuff that people tell you should matter. And you can walk in what you really want to do with your one freaking chance on earth. So then you design your life in reverse. Once you see what you really want to do, I read mine every day. And I made a vision board out of it. And I recognize that actually every morning when I wake up, I read that, and then I look at my calendar, and if my meetings, who I'm meeting with, what I'm spending my time on, the projects that we work on, who I'm working with, the people I'm partnering with, the people I'm talking to, the books I'm reading, what I'm watching. If those do not help me get closer to those statements being true, I drop it. And it takes a lot of discipline, but I feel more purpose and passion than I have my entire life. And then you idiot-proof it for yourself. The name Ariel is actually a constant reminder that this has never been about me. Pull myself out of the day-to-day, the grind, the pain, all the loss, all the haters, all the blah, 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 blah. The junk that you can get lost in, the distractions. Pull yourself out, and remember, this has never been about you, so keep that big picture in mind. That's what the word Ariel means for me. But I really idiot-proof this for myself. I've changed all my art. I've affected what I wear, what I drive, again, everything around me. I've got stickers, I've got pictures, I've got everything that is constantly reminding me to stay on track, stay on track. Many are called, few are chosen. Why? Because we're not staying awake to what our calling and our potential is. So number one is to root yourself in purpose. Go back to that. When I really started making it, I had a group of builders that shall remain nameless. I don't even think they have a group name, but they didn't like that I was doing so well. They actually didn't like that I was a woman in business. I rarely talk about the problems of being a woman in business because I don't want it to be a thing. I just want to be excellent. I want to be great as a builder, not because I'm a woman builder. But we do have extra problems. We're all aware of that, and I think this is a safe space. Well, this group of builders got together and started destroying and terrorizing my houses. Literally pouring like 20 gallons of water in the HVAC so it would fail inspections, and did a lot. And I could only sit there and think because it was bad. I mean, they like gutted brand new houses, chopped them up. And I remember sitting there thinking, where were you when on my mission trip to Costa Rica, I met that little girl. I met the little girl that changed my life forever. Where were you, so-and-so jealous human being, when I realized that she couldn't speak to me because her vocal cords were destroyed by being sexually abused as an infant, which was socially acceptable in this area? Where were you when I got on my knees and I dedicated my life to going back and doing something about this? Where were you? Where were you? Your calling is between you and your God, your creator, whatever you want to call it. Mine is between me and God in my one chance on earth. And so it's important that you remember that little girl, whatever the shift in your life was that woke you up to realizing this is so much more than you. And if you can tie your purpose to that moment, then you can overcome whatever loser haters try to come against you. Humans are never going to think that something brand new and huge is even possible. Why would they? It's brand new. It's never been done before. So don't count on them. You're going to have to develop a strong mindset. This is huge. I have to literally write out, what is the best and worst thing that happens if I don't do this? And I have to do this for myself. I have a list that I also read. I've got a whole chart next to my mirror that I'm getting ready. Life is hard, people. Find a way to keep yourself awake. I don't care if the process sounds cheesy. It's what works for me, and I can go take on huge amounts of what other people would call risk because I'm aware and I'm going for it. I'm trying not to get lost in my own imposter syndrome. So I have a checklist of 5 things that'll knock me out of the game. Number 1, insecurity. Number 2, procrastination. Number 3, anger. Blah, 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 blah. What are the 5 things that would completely destroy me from actually reaching my calling? And what are the 5 things I should engage in? So if I engage in insecurity, I would never have the guts to overcome all the nerves it takes to speak in front of you incredible, amazing people. I like to say Noah's Ark that-ish. It's professional terminology for do not think that other people are ever going to support the God call in your life. You think that working on this massive boat for 120 years didn't look crazy. So sometimes you just have to listen to God, your passion, your purpose, what you really want to do in your one chance on earth, and Noah's Ark that-ish. Next thing is when you're really down and you have just that low day again. I doubt many people struggle with this. Go up to a whiteboard, go up to a piece of paper, and just start writing down everything that is going right. 2 years ago was the hardest year of my entire life. I lost the closest people to me. I was in a horrible marriage. I was in an abusive marriage, and at the same time, I couldn't believe it. I've already won all these awards. I was Forbes' 6th fastest growing woman-owned company, woman-led company in the world. I was Fortune number 3. I've won amazing, amazing things, successful, had the right mindset, everything, and it can still happen to you. Nobody's immune. So I lost that. I lost the closest people to me, 70% of my staff, almost lost my business. And I lost all the stuff that I was working on overseas in the same 3-month period as the hurricanes, which was terrible. So it took me going up to a whiteboard and just writing out, one day I wrote, I have legs. I have legs. If that's all I have, then I'm blessed. Find the reasons that you're blessed. Find everything that is going right. Who does love you? What do you have? And it's not even compared to. It's, I'm so blessed. And when you recognize those blessings, you pull yourself out. You've got that mindset that says, I can still go for this. Choose your tribe wisely. I cannot even begin to tell you how important this is. My life really shifted in 2014 when I had the honor of meeting one of the only famous people that I wanted to meet, ever, which was Richard Branson. And spending time with him and learning how you scale companies. And you're sitting next to somebody who you ask, where do you see Virgin Galactic in the next 10 years? Well, 10 years from now, we'll have Virgin hotels sitting around the moon. Not on the moon because of the gravitational pull, but you'll be orbiting around the moon and you'll be able to go up there for a lovely holiday. And it will be inexpensive. Those are the kind of things he thinks about and talks about. And he is very well known for using his life as a force for good, but I want to take it to the next level. Recognizing that the human brain was developed to keep you alive, right? Not to excel. And I say that if you got kicked out of the village back in the day, you'd be eaten by a dinosaur. So do not piss off the village. Right? Today, we don't exactly have the same issues in Hendersonville, Tennessee. So you need to pick your village, because if you're surrounded by people who sound like they love you, a lot of times they come in the voice of love, but they're telling you, don't, blah, blah, here's all the reasons. I came with a really easy filter, and it was just to only listen to people you want to be like. And to get even more specific, only listen to people you want to be like in that specific area. They may be a great mother, but terrible at business. So take their mothering advice. Take their fitness advice, but leave their blank advice. Whatever it is. Just pick that one thing and don't demonize the human because they're not perfect, because none of us are. Just pick the good, leave the bad. Recognize that you are the average of the 5 closest people. We've all heard that. Right? You're the average of 5 closest people to you, but you're also the average of the 5 ideas that you spend the most time with. So what are you talking about? What are you thinking about? This is a great room. You should probably all just be friends forever because we all give a crap about impact and the right things. Am I being too rough?
No.
No? Real enough? It's okay? All right. So the 3 things. Root yourself in purpose, develop a strong mindset, and choose your tribe wisely. If I were to pick of all the things that I've overcome, lawsuits, haters, oh my gosh, crazy people, contractors, I've had to put 2 guys in jail for trying to come kill, like weird stuff. I've had to, I'm dealing with taking away people's drug dealers. I'm telling you, that's been my focus. If I can get the drug dealers out, then people can be safe in a neighborhood. If I've dealt with some weird things, but overall, all the pain and heartache, crazy employees, whatever, the hardest thing has been that I didn't have the right tribe. So I built my own. It's called G-Force, and it's very similar to this group in that they're all a force for good. I just want to encourage you that you have one life. I want you to know and feel confident knowing that none of us have our crap together perfectly. And that's not what this is about. It's about going for it. It's about recognizing that you have a gift. And your gift is to be talked about, it's to be given, it's to be shared, it's to be incorporated into your business. And we can be a force together for good. Thank you.